Good morning, buenos dias, bonsoir. Welcome to Life Lessons Straight Up with a Twist. I am your host, Charity Youngblood, and I am so excited and grateful that you are here with me today. This podcast is unedited because life is unedited. As always, we'll get started with a question, and whatever activity you engage in for self-reflection and introspection, please feel free to do. So whether that's writing in a journal, recording yourself, saying the questions out loud, and then saying your responses, do whatever works best for you. So today's first question is 5 minutes enough for self-reflection? Is 5 minutes enough for self-reflection? So recently, we just did a podcast about is 5 minutes enough? And I definitely provided some examples as well. So if you haven't already, definitely check that one out. But I wanted to bring this question into the podcast specifically for self-reflection. Because specifically, that's what this podcast is all about. We talk about that at the beginning, about engaging in the activity of self-reflection, the activity of introspection. And one thing that comes up a lot is we think about something that we have to do, and then we think, oh, it has to be this long, drawn out process that honestly is usually unattainable, right? And so I really wanted to bring that to the podcast today to just kind of talk about and explore this in a certain way. You know, if you notice, all with the exception of a few episodes, every episode that I do is under 10 minutes. And that is very purposeful and intentional. Number one, because I don't like listening to people talk for too long. That's just, I just don't. That's just the truth of the matter. So I wouldn't create something in where I'm just drowning on and on and on, right? Because I don't like that experience. The second reason is because I like to get in and get out. Tell me what it is. Tell me what you're talking about. Don't give me any fluff. And that's what I present specifically in this podcast. So since I've never addressed this before, and I kind of felt like it was right in line with this whole understanding of how we invest our time. So the question again, is 5 minutes enough for self-reflection? If you're talking about a situation where, like on this podcast, you're listening to the podcast, it's right around 10 minutes. Right after that, if you feel like, okay, now I need to spend, an hour sitting down and figuring out these questions, that's really not necessarily the best way to look at this, right? So the first way, the second question to really think about this is, how much time do I have right now? How much time do I have right now? So let's say you're listening to this and you're, you have it set up where you're listening to the podcast and then you want to go ahead and do your writing or your self-reflection activity right after. If you know that you have 30 minutes total to yourself to actually do that and commit to that process, absolutely. But if you're listening to this podcast in between your break or at the beginning of the day when you literally only have 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, that's really not going to be productive. It's not going to be effective for you. So really look at how much time you actually have wherever that may be. Most of us schedule our days around our work, right? Around our day job. And if you're looking at, oh my gosh, I have all these things and all this stuff to do, I only have this amount of time to commit to this activity, then that will kind of give you the understanding or kind of propel you to where it is that you need to go. So that's really what I wanted to bring today. Those are the questions that had on my heart to really explore. It's not necessarily the amount of time. That's really, really important. It's not, oh, I only have 5 minutes or I only have 10 minutes. I have 10 minutes. That's the truth statement. I have 5 minutes. How do I want to invest these 5 minutes? So very similar to what I said on the last episode is when you're thinking about your self-reflection, experiment. Is 5 minutes enough? Let's find out, right? So for example, listen to today's podcast and, whatever amount of, wherever you decide to place it, set that timer for 5 minutes and self-reflect. Answer the questions and really dig into and explore how this resonates with you and experiment with, what works best for you, because that's really what it is at the end of the day. So those are the questions I had on my heart. Really, really dig into this, especially this concept of enough, because that's usually where we struggle, right? We think of 5 minutes or whatever that amount of time, whatever the amount of time that sounds like it's not very much or it's not enough. Why? Why do I feel like 5 minutes is not enough? Why do I attach that word enough to 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Because this journey is a journey, right? It's really these small steps that we're taking, these small revelations, and engaging in the activity of self-reflection whenever you do it, whether you do it every day, every week, every month. I obviously am biased. I do think this is something that should be incorporated into every day. Because it doesn't have to be this whole big crazy thing. You can engage in the self-reflection practice when you're washing the dishes. You can engage in the self-reflection practice when you are walking, asking yourself these questions and really processing, right? So those are the questions I had on my heart. Really challenge you to explore these and have some fun with this. Give yourself the time, give yourself the space to really figure out what works best for you. So thank you, as always. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate, review this podcast wherever you're listening, and share this. Of course, definitely share this if you found it helpful for you. It's probably going to be helpful for someone you know as well. So until next time, take care.